I like wrap skirts because they are so easy to construct and there is no need for zippers, buttons or elastics, and no matter how much you just ate, it will always fit perfectly and be so comfy. If you are as excited as I am and you want to follow along, you're just gonna need some normal woven fabric that should be not stretchy and not too thin, and of course some matching thread. I'm going to use this fabric, which is a thrifted bedsheet from IKEA. What makes the skirt I'm making today special is the ruffle, which is actually a flounce, and the hem, which is not a high-low hem but just a straight one, which in my opinion looks a lot better. In this video I'm first going to explain how to make the pattern so it's exactly the skirt length you want. Don't worry, it's not too hard to understand. Afterwards I'm going to show you how to cut out the pieces and sew the skirt. To create the pattern, I made a cheat sheet you can download, so let's look at what we need. The skirt consists of 3 pieces: the waistband, the main part and the ruffle. These are the length measurements I'm going to use, but just change them up as you like to create a midi, maxi or floor length skirt. Let's go top down and start with the waistband. Imagine this green oval to be your waist. The waistband has to wrap around the waist twice and tie into a bow. The red part is where the skirt is going to be attached to the waistband. So the length is 2 times your waist plus 2 times the ties plus 2 times seam allowance, which in my case are 210 centimeters. The width of the waistband is 2 times the height plus 2 times seam allowance because it's going to be folded in half. So for me that's 8 centimeters. Let's create the main part of the skirt. So the first step is to create a very normal quarter circle skirt. You can also just use an online calculator to do that. To calculate the inner radius, take your waist measurement and multiply it with 4 to get a full circle. For me that's 256 centimeters. To get the radius, divide the circumference by 2 pi. In my case that's about 41 centimeters minus 1 for seam allowance is 40 centimeters. For the length of the skirt, just take the length you want and add 2 times your seam allowance for the top and bottom edge. For me that is 35 centimeters. To get the radius of the outer circle, add the inner radius to the skirt length. For my skirt that's going to be 75 centimeters. Here you can see that the skirt needs an overlap in the front, so just continue on your circles like this and make the bottom edge curve towards the top edge. The last piece we're gonna need is the ruffle, which is going to be a flounce, and it's very simple. You just have to draw on 2 circles to create a donut. The inner circle has a 6 centimeter radius and the radius of the outer circle is 6 centimeters plus 2 times your seam allowance plus the length you want the ruffle to be. So for me that is 16 centimeters. Alright, now that we have that out of the way, we can start cutting out the pieces, and I'm gonna start with cutting out the main skirt piece. So I'm gonna basically draw this diagram onto my fabric. First, I mark a point 75 centimeters away from the edge, which is the inner radius plus the length of the main skirt piece. From this point, I use my measuring tape as a compass and always mark the inner radius at 40 centimeters and the skirt bottom edge at 75 centimeters. Next, figure out the 45-degree angle and continue the markings until that point. Then eyeball the front flap curve and connect all the markings to a line. Just draw a nice round curve, evening out your markings. Then cut out the piece. The main skirt piece is cut out. I hope you're still with me. It might seem a little complicated, but just keep in mind that you're just drawing on 2 circles and cutting out a 3/8 of a donut. Let's cut out the rest of the pieces, which is really simple. Next up is cutting out the waistband. First, snip into the fabric and rip it to create a straight edge. Then measure 8 centimeters away from the edge, make another snip and rip it. I had to do this twice because my fabric was not long enough to cut out the waistband in one piece. Lastly, we have to cut out the flounces. To make it easier, I draw the 2 circles with a 6 and 16 centimeter radius on paper and cut out the donut to use it as a pattern. Next, I measured out the bottom edge of the skirt, which is 190 centimeters long. I divided that by 40, which is the length a circle can cover, which is 4.75, so I have to cut out 5 circles. Then just place the pattern on the fabric, draw around it and cut it out. You can also use a rotary cutter, but I think it's a bit difficult to cut curves with it. On one side, cut the circle open parallel to the grain line. Cutting is done. As always, it took quite a while to do, but now you should have the waistband, the main skirt piece and 5 circles. And the first thing we're gonna do now is to create the flounce. Take your circles and put the ends wrong sides facing and sew them together, creating one long piece. Press the seam allowance to one side and fold the pieces encasing the seam allowance. Sew together, press it flat, and you have successfully created a French seam. Hem the longer edge of your flounce. First fold it over once and sew it down. When you reach the French seams, take your scissors and cut off a little bit of the seam allowance to reduce the bulkiness. Then press it to remove the waves. Fold and sew the edge to create a simple rolled hem and press once again. Making the flounce is done. It took me 2 hours to do. I thought it's gonna take like 1 hour max. But I also had a major throwback while sewing because my bobbin was empty and I noticed it after like a meter and that I had to sew this area a second time. By the way, if you have any questions, just leave a comment down below and I'm gonna try my best to explain it to you. And I'm also so curious to hear what you're currently working on, so just write that in the comments as well. And right now, let's attach the flounce to the skirt. First, place the flounce right sides facing on the bottom edge of the main skirt piece. At the top of the front flap, let the flounce look over the edge, making it curve towards the edge. Leave enough room at the top to attach the waistband. Pin it in place along the whole bottom edge until you reach the end. Once again, make the flounce curve towards the edge. This will ensure that the corner of the flounce won't peek out under the skirt. Now sew along the entire edge you just pinned. Afterwards, zigzag stitch it, press it up towards the skirt and top stitch the seam allowance in place. This will make sure that it will always lay pretty. Lastly, fold and press the straight edge of the skirt and sew it in place. The flounce is attached, so this is where we're at. I just held it up on myself and it's looking very flouncy. Next time I'm going to make a matching top for the skirt. Subscribe to my channel so you won't miss that video. Now all that's left to do is to attach the waistband, so let's do that. Put the ends of the 2 waistband parts right sides together and sew them together. Press the seam allowance flat and also press the rest of the waistband if it's as wrinkled as mine. Now put the waistband right sides together on the top edge of the skirt. On the side of the front flap, the waistband should be 41 centimeters longer than the skirt. On the side with a straight edge, it should be 41 plus half your waist measurement longer. If that's the case, pin the waistband onto the skirt. Sew the waistband and the skirt together. One side of the waistband is attached, so you can now just wrap it around your waist to make sure everything works. To finish the waistband, fold the part of the waistband that is not sewn on in half. Starting where the skirt ends, sew until you reach the end of the waistband. When you reach the end, pivot a little to create a nice pointy end. Then cut off the excess and turn the piece inside out. Repeat all the steps with the other tie and press them nice and flat. Next, we're pressing the waistband. First, fold over 1 centimeter on the top edge of the waistband. Then press the seam allowance towards the waistband. Lastly, fold the waistband in half, meeting the seam that connects the skirt and the waistband. To finish the skirt, top stitch starting on one of the ties all the way over the waistband to the end of the other tie and give it a final press. It is finished! And I really like the vibe of the skirt. I think the flounce has just the right amount of volume. It also kind of reminds me of an anime character. I don't know why. The one thing I think I would like to change is to make the ties just a little bit longer, maybe like 50 centimeters instead of 40, but I'm not quite sure about that. I hope you learned something in this video and that you're now feeling motivated to sew your own wrap skirt. Thank you so much for watching, I really appreciate you being here and hopefully you want to watch more. And right now, without further ado, let's have a look at the finished skirt. I hope you like watching my videos, and if you want to make a matching top to your skirt, stay tuned for the next video. Or if you want to see me make another skirt, you can watch this one where I make a beautiful tiered skirt. See you!